Okay, good evening, everyone. Nice to have you with us this evening. I want to say a very big thank you to our guest speaker tonight for the fact that you are even 1 hour ahead of us, yet you still give us your time. We really treasure and appreciate you, madam. I want to thank every one of us who joined the call tonight. I understand that football match is going on, by the way, but few of us has prioritized our career than sports. So we want to welcome you again. Tonight we are in for what we call 45-minute section with my HR. Usually what we do on this platform is to educate people who are currently in employment, people who are looking for a job, or people who want to transit from one job to another. So every first and last in HR field to discuss range topic with us and to help us to navigate our employment life. So tonight we are in for 45 minutes section with my HR. Tonight's section is going to be on truly this topic is Africa, because I understand I'm speaking to African audience tonight. About a week ago, a lady in Inibom, popularly called Ini Omoru, went for interview at Akwa Ibom, and the news we had a day after was that she was raped, she was killed, and she was buried. So we understand that the job market is now volatile, and people sometimes they will not pay attention to red flags, thereby falling victims of this. So we now thought it good to speak on red flags. Why job hunting? Red flags can be in the form of the job advertisement itself. It could even be at when you go for interview. There's something you need to see. So tonight I want you to please and just sit well, tighten your belt, and you are in for a very impactful session tonight. Thank you so much. So we want to take the profile of uh, our guest speaker, and the person who wants to help us to take it is uh, Lorata. Lorata, are you here? Lorata, are you here? Please, you are permitted to on your video. Audience, if you want to, you can please on your video, but as guest speaker, will need to on a video anyway. So Lorata, are you here? Okay. In the absence of that, can I take it?
Ebenezer, she is here. She says she's on mute.
Okay. With which name, please? Okay. I can see her now. Okay, let me try to unmute her. Okay. Okay.
Hi, thank you so very much. I'm here. Good evening,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good evening. Good evening.
Well, I'd like to give you just a brief of our speaker this evening, career coach Vumile Msweli. She is the founder of Heset Consulting, a Pan-African coaching firm with presence in Botswana, South Africa, Rwanda, Nigeria, and United States of America. She has successfully led her team globally and remotely and has been able to effectively adapt during these unprecedented times of the pandemic whilst growing the business. She is the voice behind the world of work with Vumi career features on Botswana's Duma FM as well as South Africa's Kaya FM. She has been featured on international media outlets, including CNBC Africa, Business Day Nigeria, and ENCA in Ghana. Vumi has traveled to over 55 countries and worked for reputable companies all over the world, such as Barclays and Vodafone. She holds an accounting science degree, honors in financial planning, postgraduate from New York University, an MBA from the University of London, and is currently studying her doctorate in Switzerland. Her business accolades include being named Mail and Guardian Top 200 Young South Africans, CEO Magazine's Pan African Businesswoman, and Brand South Africa's Play Your Part Ambassador. And that is our host for this evening.
You're welcome, madam. It's an honor to have you on the platform tonight.
Thank you so much, Ebenezer. Thank you so much for the introduction, Lorato. Good evening, everybody. I see we've got people from South Africa. So Sanbonani Dumelang, my Niger people. How far, Baoni? I hope everyone is good. Thank you so much for having me. So without further ado, I'm gonna kick off with our actual presentation. I will be sharing my screen, but before I do that, I'd like to say this is an interactive session. We are gonna have question and answers towards the end. So don't be afraid to use the chat functionality to ask me any questions as I do the presentation. As Ebenezer has very kindly alluded to, I will be chatting around red flags when job hunting. I know Lorato's done a fantastic job about giving you a little bit of who I am, but often when I say I am a career coach, people have no idea what that actually means. So when I say I'm a career coach, in essence, what I do for a living is connect people where they are to where it is that they're wanting to be in their careers. So that's in the corporate sector predominantly. So someone might be stuck in a junior role and they want to be CEO. My job is to help that person get to that role as quickly as possible. And I do this in a number of platforms like Lorato has already mentioned. And if you want to understand a little bit more about what it is that I do, you can check out my TEDx talk, Help, I Hate My Job. So that'll give you a little bit of an understanding as to what it is that I actually do. With that said, let's talk red flags. So let's first define, right, what a red flag is. And a red flag is in essence a type of warning. A red flag is something that we see coming and we think, that's a little strange. That doesn't seem quite right. And how I've actually unpacked red flags is into three different sections. There's the safety element. Ebenezer spoke about the lady who was very unfortunate in her pursuit of a role, finding herself in a space where she was being tricked. Some women and men find themselves kidnapped. Some people find themselves human trafficked. And unfortunately, in this case, this woman found herself raped. So from a safety perspective, that is a primary concern that I will be touching on. Finding employment in Africa is important. If you don't know, by the year 2040, over 40% of the world's population will be living in Africa, which means, we're going to have even higher unemployment than we currently have. But unemployment does not equate to the loss of life. Our lives are more important than finding jobs. Yes, we will find jobs. Yes, we will create them. But being safe is definitely of primary concern. So the first type of warning is that of safety, okay? The second is organization. You can join an organization and then there's several red flags indicating to you that this is not the right organization for you, and you can find yourself resigning within a few months. So what are some of those red flags that you have to look out for? And then last and definitely not least, it's what we call our gut instinct. So what's instinctual? What are some of the red flags that you sometimes cannot put into words or articulate, but in your belly, in your heart, you can feel something's not quite right. So those are the three I will be covering today. So let's kick off with safety. When looking for employment or putting out your CV, you've put together your resume, your cover letter, or your curriculum vitae, and you are circulating it. You're applying for roles on LinkedIn, Career Junction, PNet, a number of websites, or even going directly to organizations. The first thing I would like you to do is leverage Google Maps. So in looking at Google Maps, you put in the physical address of where it is this office is supposed to be. Fantastic tip about Google Maps is you can put it into video mode. So you can literally turn it around and see at least a video or a photograph of what that area looks like. If they're sending you in a place that does not look safe, that is your first red flag. So I'd like you to put in the address where they would like to meet you. So it's very, very important that you look at that address, make sure that address also echoes on their website. So that's the very first step regarding safety that I would like us to look at. The second and very important step is real people references. Often scam artists don't necessarily have real people they've actually employed. If everyone they give you is a reference that they have given you, that's something of concern. We have got fantastic tools like LinkedIn where we can see where people work. So leverage that, an unsolicited cold lead for someone who's not necessarily connected to them that you can reach out to on LinkedIn and say, hi, so-and-so, can we have a cup of coffee? I see that you worked here. Or can we have a quick Zoom meeting? And engaging people from that perspective. Then you can ask real questions that you can quickly pick up if someone actually works in that organization or not. Okay. And you'll be able to do a comparative analysis. If you speak to 3 people in that organization and they're giving you different stories, one is saying work starts at 10, another saying work starts at 8, another saying, no, we work from home, you're going to notice something's not quite right here. So my safety could potentially be at risk. So that's real people references is going to be critical in ensuring our physical safety. Then third, and definitely not least, which I think is our biggest mistake often, is online versus offline. What an organization purports to do online must be reflected offline. It's why it can be supported by real people references. What does the website look like? If you copy some of the wording in the website and you put it on Word, are there spelling errors? Would a professional organization make an error like that? If you phone the organization, you confirm the address, does it relate to what you're finding on Google Maps? If you drive past with a friend, does it do those offices? If you knock on and ask to speak to the secretary, does it look like what they say they do online? If, for example, they're saying, we are a retailer, we have got a factory, and we are based out of, I don't know, Lekki, or we're based out of Randburg, and you arrive there and it doesn't look like there are any offices at all, clearly that's a massive indication that this is not quite safe for me. So pairing up and leveraging your own resources, such as friends or family, just to double check, more specifically for our female employees, please double and triple check. Also do the same thing in checking online. There's a fantastic tool called Truecaller. So if you put the number in on Truecaller, is it reflecting as the name of an organization? Or is it, in essence, reflecting as someone's personal name? So that's also a good indication that this might not be a real organization. If you are in doubt, check out those landlines, check out to see that is this number really in existence, or is this person perhaps not who they say they are. These are small techniques that we can use to ensure our own safety. As a lady, one of the things that we do, if you are privileged enough to have, I know I'm going to look like I'm supporting Apple, but on Apple iPhone, there's a fantastic tool called Find My Friends. So as women, I live in Johannesburg. Johannesburg has some of the highest crime in the world. So at any given time, 5 of my friends can see where I am based on my cell phone. So they literally just go to Find My Friends. If you've got that, give access to people who have the same, who can always double check. Dropping a line to your best friend, say, oh, there's an interview I'm going to, and sharing that location is very, very important. With that said, I'd like to move on to the organizational red flags. So when you're in an organization, there are a number of things that tend to happen. When you are applying for a role as a candidate, you obviously want this job. So what tends to happen is you start going into gratitude mode. And it's fascinating to me because it's something that's very uniquely African. We don't see this as much outside of Africa and Asia, where we get desperate for the job and we're so grateful that they're even interviewing us, that we almost forget that this is a transaction. An organization needs your services, you're supplying those services to the organization. So it's a two-way street. It's not a thank you so much, so you've just done so much mercy on me. They need your skills. So we need to be a little bit more aware. The first red flag for me is we always need to take a look at money. So now I'm talking generically here. It's always a good idea. If the money seems too good to be true, it often is too good to be true. So taking a look at the actual role and seeing if it's market related, for me, would be the first step. There's a fantastic tool called PayScale. So if you go to www.payscale.com, or you Google PayScale for your region. I think in Nigeria it's payscale.ng, and I think in South Africa it's .co.za, so you can just double check that. But even if you go to .com, you will be able to input your role, your region where you're based, the job you're actually interviewing for, and it will show you the average pay or the market-related bracket for that actual role. So let's say that role that you are applying for is about 2 million Naira. They're offering you 50 million Naira, it's a red flag. It most likely is not what it purports itself to be. Even more so when we are seeing ourselves now during COVID. Okay, the second is get some references from headhunters and recruiters. A lot of organizations are now using recruiters and headhunting firms for talent acquisition. So having a quick chat to a headhunter to say, hi, here's my CV, I'm currently looking for a role. What do you think of the companies such as Hesed Consulting or MTN or whatever the company is? Getting that feedback will give you an indication of what that organizational culture is. That organizational culture is going to help you determine, one, your career strategy within that organization. It's also going to help you see if it's the right fit for you. And I'll use a good example here. I recall working for a private bank in South Africa when I first started working. And this was high pace, high energy. Oh, sorry, I see some people are not on mute. If you could kindly mute yourself so there's no echo on my side. High-paced, high energy, work till 7 p.m., we party till 8 p.m. If you don't go out for after-work drinks, you're seen as antisocial, you actually won't be successful there. That culture was very, very different to working, for example, in the UK at Barclays. The organizational culture determined whether I would fit in and succeed. That is something a lot of us forget. If that organization pattern and culture isn't for you, you will find yourself leaving within a month or two. So watch those red flags, okay? The third for me is online verification by employees. I am a big, big fan of LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So if you are able to leverage LinkedIn, see who works there, pop them a message and say, hi, so-and-so, what has your experience been in this organization? What would you say the culture is? What do you think is necessary to succeed? You can quickly find out if that is for you or not. If they say in this organization, if you are not willing to take a blood vow, then you can say, oh, that's against my faith. I'm not going to be doing that. That is a red flag that you can, in essence, avoid from the very, very beginning. Ooh, my apologies. The second one is culture. Sorry, that's number 4. The fourth one is culture. Culture are the unwritten values, the unwritten ways of work that people work in that organization. Is it the way you naturally work or not? So I am an A-type personality and details are very, very important to me. So I've worked in organizations. I came from the banking sector, and when I moved to telco, more B-type personality, a little bit more laid back. They're not pedantic about details. So I battled to fit into that culture. It wasn't necessarily for me. So those are red flags that you need to look out for. The next and probably the biggest red flag that you will experience is in communications. How is your experience with human resources as you are engaging them? Are they polite? Are they professional? Do they do things when they say they're going to do them? If they say we'll give you feedback by 2 p.m., do they give you feedback by 2 p.m.? How do they speak to each other? So when they're interviewing you, are they speaking to each other in a manner that is respectful? Or are they talking over each other? All of a sudden you get there, the job description you received versus what they're interviewing for is not the same thing. Massive red flag. That means even in your ability to execute, it might be a little bit difficult because they in essence aren't engaging in the appropriate manner. So communications are very, very important. Observe one, how are they communicating with you? And then secondly, how are they communicating with each other? Okay. And then last for me, which is important on this slide, is processes. What does the process look like? Is it clear? Or are they busy making things up as they go along? Often this is the case, specifically if you are joining a startup where processes might not exist. But if this is a well-established organization, that makes sense. If you are saying, please, can I have the job description? And they say, no, we'll talk when we get here. How can you prepare? That's already showing you that it might be a bit of a challenge to be able to execute. For me, those are some red flags. Remember that when we are going into the corporate space, there's a certain level of professionalism that we are expecting. So all of these for me are red flags, because if you're applying for any job, they know what it is that you're applying for. So to not have that as part of the process is a bit of a challenge. And I saw that in some of the expectation when Ebenezer and I were having a chat comes from the HR perspective looking at talent. So I wanted to chat a little bit about talent acquisition and talent management in this new world of work we find ourselves. The first is understanding that benefits go beyond payment. We all know in the talent sector currently, our budgets are incredibly tight. We're expecting our people to do more with less. So understanding that the benefits we'll be able to give them are a little bit different. And the benefits aren't even sometimes monetary. So leveraging things like equity, where possible, giving them shares, leveraging things like perks, allowances. So, and I put the Vodafone logo here because a great anecdote that Vodafone was able to give me outside of the payment is I remember working for a bank and Vodafone approached me. They said, listen, Vumi, we'd like you to run Africa for us. And I was like, I'm not sure, like I come from banking, I'm not sure if this is for me. And if you don't know Vodafone, they're like MTN, right? And they are they're based in the UK, but they're quite big in East and Central Africa as well as Southern Africa. And I was like, I'm not really sure. I come from banking. I don't think I can do telecommunications. And I said to them, but you guys just sell devices. And they gave me something more than payment. They said, Vumi, what we do is sell connection. We make sure a grandmother sitting in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania doesn't leave her house and walk several kilometers to the clinic only to find that there are no malaria tablets. We send her an SMS to confirm that her medication is there. Vumi, we make sure that a father sitting in Geneva doesn't miss out on watching his daughter do ballet in Zurich. We connect people. All of a sudden, what they gave me was a sense of purpose. So even now, as talent management specialists, we need to look beyond payments. Are we giving our teams and our talent that we're acquiring a sense of purpose into what it is that we actually do? And this becomes very, very important also when you're looking globally at the trends for millennials and Gen Zs. They're not interested in just the money. They need a sense of purpose, which is why they're actually preferring smaller organizations as opposed to larger organizations because they feel a sense of purpose. The second is there are talent wars. So we must be realistic. Often we just think of ourselves as being our talent pool being only on the continent, but that's not true. We are now competing globally. We've seen the gig economy, we've seen the shade economy. There are massive, massive talent wars. So we need to be realistic in the talent that we are acquiring. Are we making sure that they're a cultural fit? And are we making sure that we can use them for more than one thing? So what have they studied? What are their natural abilities? What have they shown that they're able to do? So the days of, oh my goodness, this person's got a first class pass, fantastic. But if they can't communicate, wouldn't you rather just hire someone remotely who's sitting in Sri Lanka? So we have to look holistically at our teams, okay? So that cultural fit becomes very, very important. And I always say, you want to be locally relevant, but globally impactful. Being fantastic sitting in your corner in Abuja is not going to make you globally relevant? Can I lift you and drop you in Kampala, in Uganda? Can I lift and drop you and say, actually, you do very well for me in my office in Kinshasa, in Congo? So looking at you holistically and your ability to be flexible are one of those key talents we're looking for. People who are rigid, who say, this is all I do, we don't have time for them anymore. We're wanting people who can impact that bottom line. Authentic connection also becomes very, very important. We all know in CVs, it's like going to church. Everyone's got their Sunday best. But are these people able to really connect and be authentic? And that authenticity shines through. We can't also look at people for short-term gain anymore. Long-term fit, can we see them growing and evolving in our organization for the long term? So with the instinctual, this is my last slide, I believe. With regards to the instinctual, I would like you to observe responses. Often in interviews, we are so nervous that we're worried about our responses that we're not observing what's happening around us. Observe. Does it feel natural? Does it feel right to you? Or actually, this is not for you. Then what we call the sixth sense. What does your gut say? Yes, we can hear the rumbling in your tummy, you're desperate for the work, but what is your gut saying? And then, of course, as mentioned prior, please, please, please do share your location. It's very important. Share it with a friend. You can do it on WhatsApp, or you can share your location for, I believe, 24 hours as well. With that said, before we go to question and answers, I know Ebenezer wanted me to unpack a little bit about the services that we provide at ASED. And what we in essence do is coaching. We're a coaching firm, and we consist of career coaches. We coach people everything from interview preparation to salary negotiations, promotion positioning, which we're very proud of. Over 80% of our guys that come for promotion actually get promoted. We help people with skills such as public speaking so they can speak for themselves better in order to, execute on some of their career strategies. We assist with CV and resume writing. And then, of course, please do feel free to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And I am Vumi Msweli, career coach. So if you look for me on any of those platforms, should we run out of time and not able to get to your question, feel free to slide into my DM and you'll be able to ask me a question there. So with that said, I will stop sharing my screen and I will hand over to Ebenezer for the question and answer section.
Thank you so much.
Well, did I do it on time? I was so worried about time.
In fact, so concise, and I must confess, looking at my chat with you this afternoon, you were telling me that you didn't really get the point, but between then and now, I must confess to you that you are not ordinary an HR speaker, but you're a consultant, pa. You're a consultant. Look at your slide. I'm quite impressive. And I believe everyone on this call tonight will believe that, no, this person knows what she's talking about. Look at the way you made it so, even beyond my expectation. You make it to be a dual, approach. One, from the side of employers, what you need to identify about them. Then on the side of the employees or the candidate also, that we should present ourselves as talent, not ordinary worker. And you gave us how to go about it. That when we project ourselves in a proper way, chances of we falling into a victim employers would be reduced. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I really gained a lot. When you, first of all, look at it from the side of safety aspect, then you now move gradually to organizational aspects. Now, there are some things we need to watch on based on safety, organization, at the same time, talent. Then you now give us some things we need to look at. I think you did a very good job, I must confess to you. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much. So
I didn't want to let you down, Ebenezer. I didn't want to let you down.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Please, we want to take question now, please. If you have question, just indicate by a raise of hand in the listen, then we'll take your question live, or you can type in your question. Either one of the two. Can type in your question. Okay. My question is, Okay, good day. Question number one now. Good day, Vumi. Well presented. My question is, what are your charges for consulting? Probably people want to know how they can reach you and your charges, whether it will be in dollars, in South African money, or I don't know. So please.
So as Lorato mentioned, we are in South Africa, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Botswana. So we ordinarily do charge as per the local currency. So I'm going to give you a rough estimate. So I'm assuming you're asking me from an individual basis, and these are not my corporate rates. So let me see if I can. So for non-corporate rates, so I'll translate into both South African rands and naira. So if you look at naira, it'll be about 50,000 naira an hour, and for South African rands, that's about 1,500 rands an hour. So that is for one-on-one career coaching. But I love what we do have that we find works quite well. We also have group coaching packages as well as master classes. And what we find is people find that to be a little bit more affordable, specifically in their individual capacity. So I'm just going to give you how much some of our master classes are. So some of our master classes are about 8 to 10,000 naira, and that includes an element of group coaching. So it really does depend. So I think one of the courses we've got going on now is becoming bully proof. So people who are in toxic work environments and dealing with narcissistic bosses, how to pivot from that environment and actually start doing well, which I'm very proud of, because a lot of our graduates and alumni from those courses have done quite well. But coming up in May, we're also doing Overlooked to Promoted. And usually that's quite fun because it's my birthday next week. So those ones we do give discounts. So if you DM me for that, we do give discounts usually for my birthday in May.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm sure several people would like you to, do some sort of career coaching and guidance. Okay. Do we have another question before I take the general questions we have from people who registered during the course of the registration process? Please, you can now unmute yourself if you have questions, and go ahead and ask your questions before we round this up.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Ebenezer. Yes, thank you. I read the profile of Mrs. Vumi, and I must say she's brave, and she's like, she has done a lot, and I'm very much impressed. But I have a question, and I don't know if it will be sort of outside what you discussed, but it's still within the range of career coaching. So I just want to ask, like, where do you draw the line between seeking qualifications and experience? Because I've always heard saying that you could get paper qualifications to a point where you're overqualified, and then, like, how do you draw the line between experience and qualification, and does getting too much certification sort of make you overqualified? So that's the question.
Oh, that's a very, very good question. I think I may be the wrong person to ask that, because I'm a big believer in getting qualified. But what's important to ask yourself, every time I do a new course, every time I register for another degree, I ask myself, what is the benefit? What is the intention? So if I look at myself with my master's, when I decided to do my MBA, I did it because I was sitting at executive committee level and everyone around me had an MBA. So to be able to comfortably sit in that position at the age of 24, I needed that master's in business administration. So that's why I got it. My background is in finance. I now find myself working more in the humanities space. So personally, I'm now doing my doctorate because I'm not an expert in it. So doing my doctorate in coaching makes me an expert. Yes, I'm doing the practice. Yes, I've built the business, but I want to be able to service my customers better. So for me, sorry, I see that some of us are not on mute. So for me, your qualifications should be a stepping stone sorry guys, can you be on mute? I think we're battling to hear each other here. Your qualifications should be a validation of where it is that you're wanting to be, and also validation and a confidence in where you are. Remember that every time you get a qualification, all you are saying is, I can now solve a problem from this particular school of thought. That's why it's called the School of Economics and Management Sciences, the School of Medicine, the School of Humanities. So when you've gotten that qualification, you can solve the problem from that particular school of thought. But that's in theory. If you're not pairing that with actual practice, it's futile. You would never let a doctor do surgery on you who's never touched a scalpel. All they've done is just read the books. You need both. So for me, I only go for qualification when I know that it's necessary for that next step. So that's how I've planted and done my career. But I'm also a bit of a challenge because I love studying. So I know, like even now, I'm registering to do a course at Harvard because I want to be better at teaching. I want to make sure that I'm able to take the knowledge I have and teach it better. That's why I'm registering for that course. Yes, I'm teaching at the moment in our classes, etc., but I want to do it even better. So I think, to be honest with you, Emmanuel, it has to be a marriage of the two. I think sitting with only theory does nothing for you without practice. And then I know a lot of you are going to say to me, but Vumi, they know jobs. Volunteer. Volunteer, do it for free. Like I know every year, we allow some graduates. I think we work a lot with Ashesi University in Ghana. Lorato, who you just also heard now, she was a volunteer in our organization and now she works for us full time. So by giving yourself that exposure to learn how to practice these skills actually makes you better, because learning the theory without rolling it out and implementing anything means nothing. I hope I've answered your question, Emmanuel.
Manuel, are you there? I think to me, you have done justice to that questions anyway. Okay.
Yes, please. Yes, please. You answered it perfectly. So, like the key takeaway from your explanation is basically understand your intention, your purpose, why experience, even if it's not a experience. So you could.
All right. I think it was trying to, lay emphasis on what you said regarding that you must have a purpose before you take up another certification or degree. That for him, since you said that you went for your MBA because everyone on the executive environment you were working with were having that MBA already. So that for you to be able to contribute on that table, you need to be on the same qualification or so agreement with them. That's fine. That's fine. Another question from the participant, please. All right. Any question? Okay. Now, I want to. There's somebody who sent in this question while they were registering. They were like, the topic shouldn't just focus on what employees should watch out for, but also as a recruiter, what should they look out for in candidates seeking employment with them? How would they identify a candidate who is a threat to their culture and organization? I don't know whether you get my points, Ma.
Yes, I definitely do. So one of the things and one of the tools we have as HR professionals is different styles of interview. I'm a big believer in having different people come in and do different styles of interview. One-to-one is fantastic, and as HR, usually that's when we're involved with that initial screening. That initial screening, so here I'm obviously assuming that this person is technically sound. In South Africa, we would have checked things like SAQA, the South African Qualifications Association, to make sure they actually do have the degree from whichever university in the world they state and claim. We would have done things like the police clearance and checking that they don't have a criminal record, by obviously sending them through to to the South African Police Services. So all those technical aspects are done. So now we're looking purely at, is this person a cultural fit? Step one, one-on-one. How are you finding the person? How are you reading the person? How are you engaging? That's the first way for us to see and get a real feel. The second style, which I really like, which I find to be quite important, is panel style. I love panel style interviews because we get to see the person under pressure. We're HR professionals. A lot of us should have learned how to read body language. We know when people are looking to this side of their face, they're most likely are lying and making things up. So having someone, and I like to use this a lot, a body language expert to quickly see how those people are engaging, which is even easier now because all of the conversations are online. So you don't even you can just pop them the video of the conversation, and you can quickly, through body language, see the likelihood of honesty there. Then the third thing, which I really find quite useful beyond psychometric testing, because you can't lie in a psychometric test, it shows who you are authentically and whether you'll be a cultural fit, which I thoroughly enjoy, is role playing. Putting people under pressure and using role play as a tool, it's very, very difficult. It's one thing for someone to say, I'm amazing and I'm a hard worker. Then you throw them into a case study that's a role play. All of a sudden, they're not so hardworking because they've got to make choices, and you can see what their true priorities and drivers are. So for me, those work very, very well to see if someone works well for you. Another powerful tool, which we've got access to now, specifically with the amount of talent that we can access, is test drive the employee. Give them a volunteer role, just for 2-3 days, even a week. It allows you to see how do they work with others. They say they're a team player, but in essence, they're not a team player, because every time it's time for them to support other people, they're dropping the ball. So being able to test drive the employee without the fear of, the legislation, I know in Nigeria, it's a lot easier to fire someone. It is extremely difficult in South Africa. It is extremely difficult to fire someone in South Africa. You end up having to pay them, we've got the CCMA where they can go and sue you and they can say, no, but I was performing. So you need constant, so just by not hiring them formally allows you to really test drive and see if this person is the right person for the role. Remember that the person with the right skills and the right experience isn't always the right person for your organization. Personality counts a lot. And I'm a big believer in the likes of personality types like the Enneagram. I know that even in my team, I try to get diverse people. I like to surround myself with diverse people, because if everyone thought like Vumi, behaved like Vumi, it's what use is that? We already have a Vumi. But if someone is coming from a diverse perspective, they're able to enrich the conversation and make the organization better. So Ebenezer, I hope I've been able to answer that question.
Yes, quite, yes. Quite impactful. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure a lot of recruiters on this platform will be glad. I'm sure a lot of recruiters on this platform will be happy to hear the direction at which you responded to that questions. Thank you so much. Another question I want to ask before we take a bow tonight, and also we would like to give a 1-minute silence to the lady who lost her life on the. We know that job hunt in Nigeria or in Africa is very tough. It's a very tough thing. People sometimes, after spending 4-6 years out of school, go for NYSC service, come back, and you jump on from one state to the other, and at the end of which you thought you would be getting employment after the interview, and she was slaughtered. It could be very, very traumatizing to the family and to our immediate friend. So as I'll be asking the last question, if there's no question from the participant, I'll be asking the last question, then also we'll give a 1-minute silence.
I have a question, please.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I have a question for Mrs. Vumi, please. Yes. I'm asking, what exactly are employers looking for employees or from prospective employees in this time? And because the reason why I'm asking that question is, with the qualification of short courses or micro degrees or micro masters, like, because I've got some sort of opinion, but I just want to know, like, from an expert that you are, like, are employees really seeking for skills, or they're seeking for degrees? And if they're seeking for skills, then what really will be the relevance of a degree, let's say 4 years from now? Because a degree is sort of broad, so if the employers are specific, how then do we start preparing ourselves for the world of work, let's say 10, 15 years from now?
That's a very good question, Emmanuel. So there's a fantastic futurist who said the illiterate of the future are going to be those who have an inability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So the reality is, whatever you're learning in university first year, by the time you finish and you're graduating, what you learned in first year is now irrelevant and redundant. It's why we're seeing trends across the globe, specifically in the tech sector, with Facebook, Google, Microsoft dropping the need for even a degree. In the African context, we notice that we tend to be, 4 to 12 years behind the guys in San Francisco when it comes to that. So in the African context, it's how we differentiate ourselves as our degree. But a lot of us think our degree is our key into the C-suite, and it's incorrect. Like I mentioned before, your degree only teaches you the ability to solve a problem in a particular manner. An engineer will approach a problem in one manner, whilst an accountant will approach the same problem in a different manner. It's why we're seeing a cross-pollination of skills. And this I see, it's been interesting, I've been consulting with some of my clients, and we're seeing banks asking for people who've studied art and music to come into their sector now. And it's got nothing to do with accounting and finance. And that's because they're needing people who can approach the problem in a fundamentally different way to connect to clients. I can't speak for all organizations, but I can tell you for my organization. If you cannot add value that I can see getting into my bottom line, I'm not interested in having you in my organization. You cannot make me money by making my customer experience better. If you cannot make me money by adding value and showing me what I didn't even know I needed, then I don't really need you in my organization. And I'm a little bit different in that I'm not some of my favorite employees that have worked with me for over 3 years do not have degrees. And I'll use an example of one gentleman that we work with by the name of Serge. He comes from the DRC, so he now lives in South Africa. English is not even his first language. It's not his second language. It's not even his third. It's his fourth language. It is his fourth language. One of our other employees, who's probably the most innovative woman I've ever met, has got a 4th grade education. But the changes she's been able to instill in some of our businesses is phenomenal. And this is me speaking as a PhD candidate. So for me, I am not interested in how many degrees do you have. I'm interested in what value can you bring? And in bringing that value, can I tie that to a bottom line? Can I justify your salary every month? And should I actually, the best employee is the one that makes you feel guilty, where you're like, I cannot wait to make more money so I can pay them more. So degrees for me mean nothing. They only show me that you're able to approach a problem from one frame of reference. For me, it's really about the value that you bring. Because also, I don't need someone who got a degree 10 years ago and hasn't learned anything else since. But someone who's constantly, we call it continued professional development, or continued CPE, continued professional education. Someone who's constantly improving themselves in order to see that translates into their work is who I'm interested in hiring. I've turned away people working for me who were top of their class, purely because their attitude was awful. And I'll give you a good example of this. I remember I was working at a private bank here in South Africa, probably the most prestigious private bank, Investec. And I just failed my honors. I remember I was studying accounting at the time. I failed my honors in accounting. And I thought, oh my goodness, and they were paying for me. And I was speaking to the CEO. And this is a man whose company is listed in London, listed in South Africa, like huge, one of the biggest thought leaders in the country. And I was speaking to him and I said, Stephen, you know, I failed my accounting degree. I know you're probably going to get rid of me now. And he said something that was so profound to me. He said, Vumi, skills I can teach, attitude I cannot. You're going nowhere. My failure wasn't enough to get me fired. Instead, it got me a promotion. Because he said to me, now, 22, now you know what it's like to get your teeth kicked in. Now you know what it's like to live with failure. You'll never make that mistake again. And he's like, your attitude is why you're staying. The skills necessary to do the job I can teach you. So the lack of my degree didn't disqualify me. So I think I've been comprehensive in that response. I hope so, Emmanuel.
Yes, please. Lastly, please, before you go, lastly, please. I mean, you've achieved so much in a very short period of time. I mean, your achievement and your age in this our climb, Africa, don't just match. I was expecting someone a lot more older, but from your facial expression, yes, please, from your facial expression and your achievement and your profile, seriously, they don't just match. So I'm very frank and I'm very candid about this. Can you tell us like 2-3 things you've done or 2-3 attitudes that you've had to exhibit over time in order to make the strides you've made so far, especially in a relatively very short period of time? Because I think it will be very insightful and very helpful as we climb the corporate ladder too as well.
Awesome. So Emmanuel, for me, the number one thing is building the right relationships. Having the right relationships is critical. And a lot of us think, networking. But I'm a big believer in building relationships, because networking means I just get your card and I message you every once in a while. But having people that you are invested in and them invested in you. And the way, for me, the first building block in relationship management is reputation. If you speak to my very first boss at Investec and you speak to my very last boss at Vodafone, the experience of Vumi is consistent. I am who I am and it's authentic. So relationship building is awesome. And because of relationship building, Emmanuel, the only job I ever applied for was my very first job. I never applied for another role post that. People have headhunted me based on knowing what it is that I can do. The second, and a lot of people, and you know, it's always specifically speaking to people in Nigeria, it's always a bit of a challenge for me because the work ethic is completely there, and it has to be, because you know, Nigeria is a very competitive market. It's a little bit different to South Africa, where our economy is only opened up in the past 25 years, and the skills shortage is still there. So it's a little bit different. So that work ethic for me is going to be critical. Work ethic is critical. The third, and probably my biggest advantage, is exposure. What do I mean by exposure? I was very, very fortunate. I traveled a lot. My ability to travel, so I forego certain privileges. So where I could, I traveled, and every time I got an opportunity, I worked somewhere else in the world. What that did is I came with my South African perspective, right? This is how we do things in South Africa. And all of a sudden now I'm studying in Ghana and I'm like, what? This world is so different. West Africa is very different from Southern Africa. Then you're thinking, oh no, I've gotten used to this pace. You hit New York, it's different. Then you're in London and you're thinking, oh, you're the best of the best where you come from. And now you're surrounded by people who are the best of the best from all over the world. You think Africans work hard. Now you're meeting Asians. You're like, what? Like, I'm leaving the office at 10. It's now 12. You're still at the office. So it pushes you. You know, there's a Bible verse that says iron sharpens iron. That's how you get to be the best. The reason I chose to study in London and not South Africa is I remember in South Africa, we've got something called Black Economic Empowerment, which by law forces organizations to choose Black females to address, you know, the history of apartheid. And I often thought people would be saying, oh, she's hired because of this legislation. I chose to go to London because I knew the best of the best are competing there. So if I can beat the best of the best in one of the most difficult places in the world to do well, then I am the best of the best. I've answered that for myself. So putting yourself in positions for exposure and competing with the best makes you the best. You being the best in your corner in the world means nothing. Because often we think, if I picked someone out of Lagos and I dropped them in Johannesburg, they're going to think Johannesburg's like Lagos and they're going to fail. It's not. So by giving yourself that exposure, it allows you to be adaptable and flexible. You will unlearn what doesn't work for you and you will implement what is an advantage for you. Because sometimes we don't even know what our advantage is because we've never been asked to do it outside of where we find ourselves. So if you can travel, if you can get yourself exposure to people from outside of your country. So a lot of people will be like, oh my goodness, are you sure you're South African? Are you sure you're African? Like, it doesn't make sense. And it's because I really am a global citizen. So it's like, you drop me off in New York, I don't even need I don't even need the subway map. I know. Drop me off in London, it's my second home. I know. So you need to be comfortable enough in spaces that are uncomfortable for you. Because right now, if you are in Nigeria, you're a Black African man. That's what the population looks like. But if I were to take you and drop you off in Singapore, the moment you see another Black person, you're hugging. You even forget where they're from. They're like, I'm from Djibouti, you're just so happy to see each other. So you don't know that being African is at times an advantage because you've never had to experience that or explore that. You wait till you're sitting in New York and you're in class and you're thinking, oh, my African-American brothers and sisters, and they're like, you're African, you're a booty scratcher. Eh? Right? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so how is this now something I can leverage? So for me, those are the top 3 keys.
Absolutely, thank you, Ma. So you've said, just to recap, you said 1, relationship building, that's which anchors more reputation. Secondly is work ethic. Thirdly is exposure, your ability to be comfortable in an unfamiliar environment or territory. So if I get those 3 points correctly, and sincerely speaking, they are very unconventional. It's not really what I expected to hear, but having another perspective really
wow, Mr. Emmanuel, I'm sorry, I'm afraid, Mr. Emmanuel.
Well. Thank you,
Mr. Emmanuel.
Yes, please.
Mr. Emmanuel, I'm afraid we just have to bring yeah. So thank you so much.
Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
I'll sorry, my network. I think I'm back. Okay.
My apologies.
Okay, so please accept my sincere apology, please. My network is beginning to act up. All right. I want to take the final remark from Madam Fumi. Then also I'll be giving my final remark. Then also we are going to observe a minute silence for Inibong, the lady who lost her life in search of job hunts. Madam Fumi, please, your final parting remark. And before you talk, please, there's something you said that really touched me. Say the only job you ever applied for was your first one. And
yes.
Ever since then, you've been, relationship building that has really helped you. I remember the first time I told my wife that we were watching Arise TV, and I saw you, giving, I said, no, this woman, I'm going to invite her to 45 minutes with my HR. My wife was like, how will you do that? I said, just give me time. And that same week, I chatted you up online, and you immediately gave me a kind of answer that if I made my day. I think I told you that you made my day that day. Thank you so much for your time. And looking at the time now, this is 10:15 at South Africa. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is your parting word, man.
Thank you so much, Ebenezer, for inviting me. And thank you so much, everyone, for making the time and investing in yourself. I think the whole concept of us coming together today was really about looking out for those red flags. And the reason we have to look out for those red flags is that we are our own business, we are our own biggest and most important advocates. Looking after our own interests is very, very important. I often say to my clients, you are the CEO of your career. So you're responsible for the experience, for the board members that you hire, and you're responsible for the organization you choose to partner with. Please note, I didn't say work for, I said partner with. So you need to take yourself seriously as a CEO. You need to have a clear career strategy. You need to look out for red flags in order to preserve and keep yourself safe and healthy, in order to also protect your own reputation. So with that said, thank you so much for having me. I see we've lost Ebenezer a little bit again because of network. Ebenezer, are you still there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Are you done?
I'm done. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right, so let me give my parting word anyway. And I will go back to the question Emmanuel asked regarding qualification and skill, which actually is important. I think both of them are actually important. You know, I posted something on my WhatsApp page today. Why you enjoy your job, you need to pay attention to your career. Skill may likely focus on the job at hand, but your qualification, your education degree shows that you have a plan how to navigate your career life. That even if the work you are doing at the moment and the skill you have, fit the work you are doing at the moment, as you are getting qualification educational wise, you can be preparing yourself for the next position or next available job over there. So thank you so much for every one of us making it to this webinar tonight. Can we please observe a minute silence for anybody who lost a life sometimes last week? Let's make a 1 minute silent for her. May our soul rest in perfect peace. Thank you for being part of this call tonight. We want to appreciate everybody. Please, let's unmute ourselves and appreciate our guest speaker tonight, please.
Hello. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ebenezer Anagun. And I want to give a shout out to Uvali, my dear friend, because I invited her on WhatsApp for the webinar. And when I came in, she was among the participants. So I'm really proud and I'm really grateful. And I want to say a very big thank you to you, because I like, it's not really easy bringing in some heavy weight in the person of Mrs. Vumi to come, because I understand that her time is of great importance to her, but she came and she spent almost over an hour with us and to share her deep insight and wealth of experience, and I'm very grateful. And please, Mr. Ebenezer Anagun, keep up the good work as well, and I'm open to communicating with you further as regards to opportunity or sort of partnership.
Thank you.
And stuff like
Thank you. Thank you, Lorato. Thank you. And
thank you.
Thank you, Lorato. You made this happen.
Thank you, Mrs. Fumi.
Thank you so much, everybody. Stay safe.
Mr. Shegun, thank you, sir. Ovale, thank you. Christiana, thank you. Love Agbari,
Thank you.
Mr. James, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, please do share your slide with us, madam. I will be speaking to you